Ball coverage is on every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
With the auto insurance market constantly changing, call a professional that will put your needs first. Ray Felton State Farm is a team of licensed professionals that will assess your risk, explain coverage in detail, and assure you understand what would happen if you ever found yourself in a claim situation. You can visit rayfelton.com or call their office at 234-284-2996 for a free quote on your home, auto, renters, and life insurance needs.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
Hand-and-built leather goods. Leather goods built for life. Made by hand in the USA, all goods are made with veg-tanned leather. Some of the best quality around and made by a U.S. veteran. Check out their website, www.handbuiltleather.com. GV Art and Design is a creative boutique specializing in original artwork, design, and apparel. With 4 locations in Lakewood, Avon, Willoughby, and Kent, you can visit their store and check out their collections including Cleveland sports teams, Ohio colleges, and much more. Use the code ONTAP10 for 10% off your order. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind.
Welcome everybody to Sports on Tap. This is the high school football show presented by Ray Felton State Farm Insurance. You got to hear from all of our wonderful sponsors here right before the show, and you'll be able to hear from them over the course of the show as well. This is the Week 7 high school football show. My name is Ed Dick, alongside Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Noah Jacobson, and Professor Hype himself, Sean Duffy. And we have, the hype alert will be forthcoming. I promise you that. And sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes he just goes on a roll. But that's neither here nor there. On you. Sure does. You're watching us live on our YouTube channel at Sports on Tap. Make sure you check us out on Facebook at Sports on Tap. Follow us on Twitter/X at SOT Podcast. That's where you're going to get all of the live recaps that we do. Our website is also Threads at SOT_podcasts. And of course, our website is sportsontap.com. podcast.com, where you're going to get to see all of our stories, all the highlights, our schedules, the standings, where we're going, Power 10. Everything you need to know about the show is on sportsontappodcast.com. And, of course, email us with any sort of stats, pronunciations, corrections to sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. We are 7 weeks into this high school football season. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty when it comes to playoff positioning and conference titles. And we're going to get right into it here. We had 3 feature games, one in the Suburban League, 2 in the Greater Cleveland Conference. We will be joined later at about 8:20 by Wadsworth running back Kyle Figuray. The Grizzlies have put together a very, very good season up to this point, so we're going to talk to him about that game. And he was also involved in one of our feature games of the week as well. So stay tuned for that. We will have our Power 10, our Ray Felton State Farm Player of the Week contest, and where we are going in the coming weeks. Let's get going. The Suburban League, the Natty Daddy, as Josh likes to call it. Let's get rolling with the Suburban League National Conference.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. I appreciate that. So just like last week, we had 3 conference games and 1 non-conference game. We will start with the non-conference game where, as we like to say, a football game was played. And that football game was won by the Twinsburg Tigers with a 42-7 victory over Brush. Jaden Dye did have a touchdown reception in this game to go along with a kickoff return for a touchdown. Former SOT high school football show guest Aiden Stazinski had 2 rushing touchdowns. Twinsburg improves to 3-4 on the year, and they are actually the 16th seed in Division II Region 5 brackets there or standings. And this all according to our good buddy JoeIdle.com. So Twinsburg with a big victory there. They are on the cusp of the playoffs if they were to start now. Now into the conference game, we'll start out with our first game. Hudson took on the Brecksville Bees. Thank you, Sean. And this was a lunch pail game for the Hudson Explorers. Dominant run game, dominant defense in this game. And you can see it just by the time of possession. Hudson possessed the ball almost 30 minutes in this game, while Brecksville possessed the game just over 18 minutes. And they were all led by running back Ian Ludwig, who had 32 rushing attempts, 148 yards, and 1 touchdown. That's a typical game for Ian. Louis Castellararin, I hope I got that right. Good effort by me. He did have 1 catch in this game for 12 yards. However, that 1 catch came in the form of a touchdown, and the rest of the scoring took place by Ed's favorite position on the football field, the kicker, Ian Katz, with a 36-yard field goal. Now, the Bees did not get on the board until the 4th quarter when Kyle Keener caught a 2-yard touchdown pass from Colin Siebert. Keener had 11 receptions in this game for 144 yards and that touchdown. Eli Beach for the Bees had 15 rushing attempts for 93 yards. And on defensive end, the defense was pretty active for the Bees. Evan Rizzo led the way with 11 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss on that 4 tackles for a loss. With the victory, Hudson improves to 5-2. They are 3-1 in conference play. Brecksville drops to 4-3. They are 2-2 in the conference. Now in the playoffs standing so far, in Division II, Region 5, Hudson is the number 4 seed. Brecksville in Division II, Region 6 is the number 10 seed. So both teams would be in the playoffs if they were to start today. Another conference matchup pitted the Stowe Monroe Falls Bulldogs, easy for me to say, against the North Royalton Bears. And congratulations to the Bulldogs. They get their first victory of the year, 21-17. Royalton was actually up 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, and then Stowe would slowly chip away, scoring touchdowns in each of the next 3 quarters. Finally, with 2:30 left in the game, running back Paul Belts scored on a 23-yard touchdown run to put the Stowe Monroe Bulldogs up 21-17. In the game, Jacob Harrington had a touchdown pass and a touchdown run for Royalton. Joe Kinney had 2 touchdown passes. And Cameron Saw for the Bears had 28 rushes for 84 yards. So a really good game in this one. Stowe, again, with their first victory, improves to 1-6. They are 1-2 in the conference. Actually, the number 16 seed, according to JoeIdle.com in Division I, Region 1. North Royalton drops to 1-6. They have not won a conference game yet. They sit at 0-3. They are the 21 seed in Division 2, Region 6. Finally, one of our SOT featured games. I was at this game. So was Miles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns. He showed up at halftime. I got to give props to Miles Garrett. He was bombarded by Pee-wee players, adults, cheerleaders, everyone, and he took the time to sit and talk to them, take pictures at halftime. And he stayed around for most of the third quarter, so good for them. But this game, and we'll talk to our guest Kyle Figuray a little bit later on, what he saw in this game, because he played a very important piece in this game, because he scored the first 2 touchdowns of this game. Wadsworth was actually up 21-0 in the second quarter. As I mentioned, 2 touchdowns from Kyle Figuray, 1 touchdown from Will Stack. And then Nordonia was finally able to get on the board as Israel Petit caught a 24-yard touchdown pass. He actually had 2 touchdowns on the night. He had a big night, but not much else was going on for the Nordonia Knights. Wadsworth's defense took over in the second half. And this was actually funny. After talking to Coach Todd at the end of the game, 18 seconds left in the third quarter. It was a pick 6 by Gavin Madigan, and that was actually Wadsworth's first interception of the year, and it turned into a pick 6. At that point, they were up 42-14. Wadsworth would get 2 more scores in the game to come away with a 55-14 statement victory over the Nordonia Knights. In this game for Nordonia, Israel Petit had 8 receptions for 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. Former SOT High School Football Show guest Rocco DiLorenzo, a workmanlike performance, 106 yards on 28 attempts. And former Player of the Week nominee Ben Chesser was 13 of 21 for 202 yards and 2 touchdowns. Will Stack for the Bees had another awesome game. I'm sorry, not the Bees, the Grizzlies. I was so excited that Sean said that the first time. Sean, give me another one if you don't mind.
The Bees.
Thank you. They took no part in this game, but they're always a part of our soul. Will Stack was 12 of 17 passing for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also added 116 yards on the ground with 3 touchdowns. So that's 5 total touchdowns for Will Stack. Kyle Figuray, 74 yards rushing, 41 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns. And got to give props to Cooper Gray, who had a 45-yard touchdown run. That was the final touchdown of the game, but the Wadsworth Grizzlies, the bench was so excited for them to score. Again, Wadsworth goes on to the 55-14 victory. They improved to 6-1, 4-0 in the conference. They take over sole possession of the Suburban League Natty division. Natty Conference, I should say. Nordonia drops to 6-1. They are 3-1 in the conference. Now, in terms of JoeIdle.com, Wadsworth is the number 2 seed in Division 1, Region 1. Nordonia is the number 5 seed in Division 2, Region 5. And that'll pretty much wrap it up for the Suburban Natty Conference. I'm going to toss it over to Professor Hype. What was that?
Whoa. Do I get intro music?
Did you just have intro music?
Do I have intro music?
That was I was looking for some statistics, and Max perhaps kind of something got on you there, but that was fantastic.
All right.
Though. If I could clip that, we could definitely get for Professor Hype in the future.
Clip it.
That was pretty solid.
Clip it. All right,
take it over, Sean.
Now that my promo music's done, we'll go ahead and move on to the American Conference of the Suburban League, and as always, we'll start with Aurora. And, Aurora went into Talmadge and played a football game, and they got a dominating 38-0 victory. They improved to 6-1 over Talmadge. Greenman defense was the talk of this game here. They led the way, scoring twice, both on interceptions by Evan Cantania and Ben Lukasik. They had both interceptions, 4 touchdowns. Evan Cantania also chipped in 123 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. And Jace Ubervith had a touchdown reception from Brandon Lipens on this, but it was all Aurora all night. Aurora improves to 6-1 overall on the year. Talmadge falls to 2-5. Revere travels in to take on Barberton, and Barberton gets a home victory here, 29-12 over Revere to improve to 4-3 on the year. Barberton running back Xavier Macon, had 131 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. QB Magic's quarterback Dominic Wilson finished 13 for 19 with 178 yards to the air, 1 passing touchdown. The only points scored for Revere came on a kickoff return, touchdown, and a safety, as well as a field goal in this game, but it wasn't enough as Barberton gets a 29-12 victory over Revere. Revere falls to 3-4. With the victory, Barberton coach Tony Gatto ties legendary Magic's coach Rudy Sharkey, namesake of Rudy Sharkey Stadium in Barberton, for the all-time wins. He'll look to break that record next week. What happened here? What's going on here, guys? I'm screwing up. Okay, here we go. Back to where I was. Now, our next game features Copley traveling into Cuyahoga Falls, and Copley got off the schneid in a big way with a 48-29 victory on the road at Cuyahoga Falls. Copley quarterback Gabe Manziel accounted for 6 total touchdowns in this game, 3 passing and 2 rushing touchdowns. Cuyahoga Falls quarterback Joey Earl also had 3 passing touchdowns in this game. Camden Wright had a rush TD, and those 3 passes by Cuyahoga Falls came to Giovanni Tuttle, Jaden Graff, and Valentino Cargill. All had touchdown receptions. But again, big ups to Copley getting their first win of the victory, first win for their new coach. Remind me of his name, Josh. I think you know his name. I didn't write his name down.
Ramalik,
thank you. And congratulations to him and the Copley Indians, as they are 1-6 on the year. Cuyahoga Falls falls to 2-5 on the year. My last game here, Highland goes into Roosevelt, and the game was played. It was all Highland all night, 42-0 here, dominating win over the Minutemen. Highland running back Evan Grant had 15 carries, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. Johnny Silko for the Hornets had 2 rush TDs. Peyton Janikish kicked in with a rush TD. And Matt Syriac does it again on special teams, guys. 93-yard kickoff return for a touchdown in this, as the Highland Hornets defeat the Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders, to 42-0. Highland is now 6-1. Roosevelt is 4-3. Our Suburban League Player of the Week nominee, we got to give it to Gabe Manziel. You get your first win of the season. You count for 5 total touchdowns, 3 rushing, 2 passing. You are our player of the week. Now let's move on to see what's gone on tap. See how I did that? On tap for week 8 in the National Conference in the Natty Daddy. Josh, tell me what's happening in the Natty.
And again, just like the previous weeks, we got 3 conference games, 1 non-conference game. The 1 non-conference game is Padua traveling to Brecksville to take on the Bees. There you go. And the conference matchups, Nordonia at Hudson, North Royalton at Twinsburg, and Stowe will travel to Wadsworth.
That's right. And in the American Conference, we have Kent Roosevelt traveling to take on Aurora. Barberton will try to beat that winning machine now, Copley. And Talmadge travels to Cuyahoga Falls. Highland traveling to take on the Minutemen of Revere. Guys, that's all it's fit to print here in the Suburban League. We are going to kick it back to Mr. Business himself, Mr. Ed Dick.
Great job on the Suburban League, American and National Conferences, as always, guys. Josh, at the game, you were at the Wadsworth and Nordonia game. What was it about Wadsworth that allowed them to just, dominate Nordonia?
They just were very prepared. I'll say that. They definitely had a game plan on offense and on what they could do. A real steady dose of Will Stack, not only passing and running the ball, but Kyle Figuray setting the tone early. And then the defense. Nordonia runs a no-huddle style offense. They are ready to go. And they did have Nordonia did have a couple big plays to Israel Petit, but that second half, Wadsworth defense just really took over. Solid tackling, and I mentioned it last week, the penalties. Wadsworth has been known this year to be a very highly penalized team. They were very limited on penalties. They kept that down, and give credit to the coaching staff. They really had this team prepared, and they went in a very festive environment. It was homecoming for Nordonia, and they just came out and they just, they played a high level of high school football that proves that they are one of the top teams in Division I, Region 1.
And Wadsworth, with 2 remaining conference games, and they have a trip out to Fort Hill, Maryland, But those two teams are Stowe Monroe Falls and North Royalton. Both have one win on the year. Now, Coach Todd effusive in his praise of all the teams that are on his schedule. So they are certainly not overlooking anybody, but they are certainly in the driver's seat to win the Suburban League National Conference's 2 trips to the east side have certainly proven that out. Sean, on the American Conference side, I think it's pretty clear that we're waiting for the Week 10 collision between Aurora and Highland. When it comes to some of those other teams, I think we've talked about this before. So far, Kent Roosevelt, Barberton, and Revere are all kind of in that mid-range there. They probably have done better in the non-conference than they have in the conference. So, Copley gets their first win of the year. So congratulations to them. When it comes to Kent Roosevelt and Barberton, I think we did a comparison about these two teams recently, but we're going to talk about Highland and Aurora probably ad nauseum in the next few weeks. What do those two teams need to do to solidify themselves as the 3 spot and then get themselves in playoff positioning?
Well, I think it's going to be big for Barberton. I mean, Barberton still has Aurora on their schedule. I mean, they don't have the Highland. The Highland game's done and gone. I think you have to look at, for Barberton, they got to get up. Maybe they can play spoiler with Aurora. Maybe get some points a little bit there. I don't know how much that's really going to play into their playoff, given where they're at in Joe Idle and where they're in the standings. But again, a win over Aurora is going to be a big win no matter what happens. I mean, that's a big time win for the school. It may not pan out points wise, but it's definitely a good something to hang your hat on. They circle that game every year in Barberton. As far as Kent Roosevelt goes, I really do think that they are rounding into a pretty good team right now. I think they have some flaws, and I think if you talk to their coaching staff, they probably have some things they need to work on. Obviously, when they played against Barberton, it was Barberton all night, and there was nothing they could do. But they rebounded. They came back and they won the game next week, and they had a rough one last week. But again, I think that's kind of where we see these teams, these mid-range teams, right? They kind of win and then they lose, but they're not, they're at that point. And I'm trying to remember the coach that I read this in a magazine that said that when you build a program, I want to say it was one of the Bowdens when he was at Akron. He equated this. He said, when you take over a program, you're losing big. And as you progress, you're going to start losing small. And then you start winning games small, and then you start winning big. That's how you build a program. I think we're in that transition period for teams like Kent Roosevelt and teams like possibly a Revere, possibly even a Talmadge. You're in that kind of rebuilding stage, and you're trying to get your program up, and you're trying to get everything going forward. Cuyahoga Falls in the same way. I think Barberton's more of a situation of they've made their own mistakes in big games, and that's come back to cost them. But they're a good team, and they're a hard team to beat. And I think if they had their opportunity, I mean, we were at that Barberton game. They like to have a few opportunities back, and they played them very well up to a point. But again, Highland and Aurora are the class of this conference. There's no debating that, and all roads lead to Highland Aurora Week 10. And I think that's going to be the deciding factor, the de facto conference championship game between those two. And there's only probably one place you're going to be able to see the great highlights, and that's going to be here on Sports on Tap. But you look at a team like Barberton and a team like Aurora. Aurora's not looking at Highland. They're probably looking. If we know Coach Mahalik, they're worried about Kent Roosevelt because Kent Roosevelt has speed. They can beat you on the outside. They can beat you on the perimeter. If they get enough, if they can block up front, they can throw the ball all over the yard, and that may pose some problems for a team like Aurora. Aurora likes to grind it out. I mean, that they can throw the ball, they can run the ball with the best of them. But if you ask any coach if they can control the clock and run the ball like that, they're going to do that every time. So I think that's where Aurora State's they got a lot more in front of them than I think a Highland does. Highland has a few teams that are those one-loss teams, things like that, where if Highland plays the way they've been playing, they're going to take care of business and set themselves up to be in that good position. Aurora's got a bit of an obstacle week 9, and then you look at week 10. So they got to go Barberton and then Highland. So you got to get things right this week, and then it becomes Barberton week and then Highland week to end your season. Now, they win those 2 games, and you got a heck of momentum going into the playoffs. I don't care who you are, but you got to take care of business going forward.
Excellent analysis as always. Well done. And that is the Suburban League for now. And we will shift over to Rob Troutman. He's got the games and the recaps for the Southwestern Conference. Rob, take it over.
All right, thanks, Ed. Week 7 in the SWC. We're going to start off with what I thought might be a really good game, Avon versus Berea Mid-Park. And as we have said before, a game was played here, which was a little bit surprising because both teams offensively putting up monster numbers so far this year. Avon running back Ja'Cory Caffey, he's almost the leading rusher in Avon history. He needs 8 yards in his next game, as in this game he rushed for 178 yards on 9 carries, 3 touchdowns, and he's continued to break records. And actually it says here he needs 17 yards to beat Bob LaRosa's mark of 3,860 yards to be the leading rusher in Avon history. So I must have missed a 1 in there somewhere. But Ja'Cory Caffey, I believe, in this next game should break that record. So something special right there for Ja'Cory Caffey, as he was the Ray Felton State Farm Player of the Week nominee for the Southwestern Conference. And Caffey, he got the scoring started on the opening drive, a 6-play drive from 4 yards out. He would score. Avon's offense, they really couldn't be stopped in this game. But the Eagles' defense, they held the Titans to just 97 yards of total offense, including 7 yards rushing in the first half. Ja'Cory Caffey, he had a 51-yard touchdown run, and it was 14-0 in the first half for the Eagles. Wide receiver Matt Maxey and Grant Barr also had Avon touchdowns from Nolan Good. It was all Avon in this one as they roll big to a win and stay undefeated 41-0 in this game. Avon 6-0, 4-0 in conference, as Berea Mid-Park, they fell to 3-4, 2-2. And Berea Mid-Park really just couldn't get that offense going. And after the game, Coach Elder even said Berea Mid-Park is one of the top defenses in this area. And, he was pretty proud of the way his offense was able to really move the ball in this game. So, again, 41-0 was your final, Avon over Berea Mid-Park. Olmsted Falls taking on Amherst, and Olmsted Falls wasn't messing around either. As sophomore running back Owen Singleton, he was our Player of the Week earlier this season, the Ray Felton State Farm Player of the Week, and he kept his hot streak up, rushing for 192 yards on 21 carries. The Bulldogs, they jumped out to a 14-0 lead before the Comets got on the board with a 12-yard run from J.R. Byers. That's as close as Amherst would get in this one, as they cut it to 14-7, but they couldn't get any closer. The Bulldogs had over 400 yards and 494 yards of total offense. So over 400 yards of rushing and 494 of total offense. Olmsted Falls running back Derek Neckar also had 4 touchdowns on the night for the Bulldogs as they win big 43-14, your final score. Amherst quarterback Cole Norris, he passed for 267 yards and a touchdown for the Comets. Olmsted Falls improves to 5-2, 3-1 in conference. Amherst falls to 3-4, 1-3. All right, Elyria and Avon Lake, and I'll tell you what, give the Pioneers credit in this one. They fought hard in this game. They were looking to upset the Shoremen, who were at home in this game, and they would get the scoring started first with a touchdown by B.J. Todd on a 33-yard pass from quarterback Justin Gilbert. They would follow up with a safety on a bad snap on a punt. Elyria actually led this game after one quarter. It was 9-0. Then Avon Lake, they would get their offense going on the next 3 drives with touchdowns by Jake Bova, Derek McCrum, and Anthony Benedict. Benedict and Bova both had 2 touchdowns on the night in this one. Illyria's Kevin Jordan, he would also score twice and run for 130 yards. So Pioneers found a really good running back in Kevin Jordan. Avon Lake's Anthony Benedict, he ran for 209 yards on the night. The Shoremen did lead in this game 28-16 heading into the fourth quarter, but Elyria would score 2 touchdowns, and they would get close in this game as they scored a touchdown and a field goal with Avon Lake to kind of hold serve in this one. On the stat sheet, pretty even throughout in the offensive category, but Avon Lake held on in this one 38-30 for the win. Elyria falls to 0-7, 0-4, as Avon Lake improves to 6-1, 4-0. Give Elyria credit. In this game, you could tell they're really starting to figure the offense out a little bit, trying to see what they have with what players, and they fought hard in this one all the way through. Again, Avon League with a 38-30 win. Midview taking on North Ridgeville. And this is a rivalry that, like I said earlier last week, really the records don't matter in this one, and it proved on this one. And Midview, they would score first. It was Ethan Albert, a touchdown run from 6 yards out. North Ridgeville, though, they would answer. And Austin DeShazo, he plays both sides of the ball, but, man, kicking field goals this year has been impressive. 37-yard field goal from him as North Ridgeville got right back into it. Then talked about wide receiver Dior Jones, versus Berea Mid-Park. He had a nice punt return. This time he'd have an impact in the kick return game. 88 yards for a kick return touchdown. It was back and forth, but it was 20-13 Midview at half. In the fourth quarter, Midview would get back-to-back scores, and that really was the difference as Zachary Wallace from Albert on a 60-yard pass, and then it was running back Michael Passarello on a 7-yard run. It was 35-21 in this game before North Ridgeville running back Andrew Ennis would score on a 65-yard kickoff return. But that's as close as the Rangers would get in this one as Midview holds on for a huge win, 35-28. It was Midview quarterback Ethan Albert. He finished with 240 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and he also ran for 67 and 1 more on the ground. He was a Player of the Week nominee. North Ridgeville, for them, it was Charlie Steinmetz who finished with 116 yards rushing and 27 yards receiving. Again, Midview holds on for a 35-28 win. They improved to 3-4, 1-3 in conference. North Ridgeville with that loss now 5-2, 2-2 in conference. The Southwestern Conference, Ray Felton State Farm Player of the Week nominee is Avon running back Jacorian Caffey, 9 carries for 178 yards and 3 touchdowns on a huge win versus Berea Mid-Park. And again, only 17 yards away from being the leading rusher in Avon history. And that's something that's going to be really special because Avon has had some very good offensive players, especially running backs at that position. So congratulations to him on continuing his season and getting closer to that goal, which I'm sure he's not really too focused on. But he's getting closer, and I'm going to guess he's probably going to take that over possibly this weekend, or this week rather. So for the Southwestern Conference, let's look to Week 8 as some really good games there as Amherst takes on Elyria. Midview off of a big North Ridgeville win, they'll go to Avon. Avon Lake travels to Olmsted Falls, and that's going to be a very important big game there in the SWC. Berea Mid-Park and North Ridgeville, that's another good game. So some good matchups here in Week 8.
No doubt, Rob. Great job as always on the Southwestern Conference. As you looking at the Elyria game, they played Avon Lake very tough, and in looking at their schedule, I mentioned this. I might have mentioned this. I know we talked about Brunswick last week and how tough they've had it with all of the successful teams they've played up to this point. You can say the same thing about Elyria. Their non-conference schedule, their teams are a combined 19-2. And then they have played Avon, Olmsted Falls, North Ridgeville, and Avon Lake now at this point. So for a first-year coach and Coach Fox, you're getting to know his team a little bit. You got, as you mentioned, you got to see them put it together a great effort. And as they're getting into the last part of their season against Amherst, Midview, and Berea Mid-Park, what do you think the chances are of getting a few wins out of this? Out of the last 2 out of 3, out of the last 3 games?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility there. I think it was tough, especially early on in the season. They were playing some really tough teams, like you said. Look at their records. But now it should start to settle down. I think they would have to be able to pull out one here. That was a tough win or a tough loss in Avon Lake. They were right there. They led the game, and it seems like they always run out of steam in the end. In a lot of these games, though, they've been close in the first half, and it's the second half that really seems to be where the other teams pull away a little bit. Coach Fox this season, I thought it was more of a feel-out period to see really what they have at the different positions. I know it's kind of tough to say that, especially when they have seniors on the team. But they do have talent there, and I know actually one player, on Midview, Dior Jones was a transfer from Elyria, so that's one guy, you wish that he probably would have stayed because he's a talented kid. He's really got speed, and I know Elyria, they always have athletes, so he's gonna figure this out. It might take a little bit of time to see what he has there in Elyria, but I think they could pull at least one of these in the final three because they've had a really tough stretch of really good games. Like you said, the Avon Lakes. I mean, they were at Avon Lake and they almost pulled that off. If they could have held on in the fourth quarter there. But, they're playing harder. There were some blowouts this year. There's no doubt about it. But, they're playing hard for Coach Fox. And like I said, they're figuring out Coach Fox as much as Coach Fox is trying to figure out his players. So it's kind of a developmental thing. And it's not going to be an easy season, that's for sure.
No doubt, and a note about Avon Lake. I mean, the last two games against Elyria and Amherst, both those teams have given Avon Lake of their best shot, and Avon Lake has been able to withstand it. But the competition certainly is going to rise in the next 3 weeks, starting with Olmsted Falls at Olmsted Falls, and then followed by North Ridgeville, and then obviously the big game at the end against the crosstown rival Avon. But they're certainly not looking ahead. It's a tough one in Olmsted Falls that faces Coach Kostelnik and the Shoremen. So, Rob, great job on the Southwestern Conference. Let's kick it over to Noah Jacobson for the Greater Cleveland Conference. We had not one, but two games of the week for Sports on Tap. So we'll get it over to Noah, and he can get us going.
Well, thank you, Ed. And we'll start off with Week 7 here in the Greater Cleveland Conference as the Cleveland Heights Tigers were taking on the Solon Comets. This will be the first and last matchup again. Solon will moving into the Suburban League next year. And, guys, a game was played, as always. Cleveland Heights running back Marquise Do-It-All Davis, as I always give him a nickname. He had 19 carries for 290 yards and 6 touchdowns in this game. So far during the season, he's having a breakout year, possibly a Mr. Football candidate. 150 yards for 1,408 yards and 21 touchdowns. That is unbelievable through the first 7 weeks. Solon quarterback Luke Cormuth had 4 passing touchdowns. 4 of his touchdowns were caught by 2 by Brian McCade and 2 by Harley Barman. But in the end, Cleveland Heights won this game 42-28. The Tigers will go to 6-1 overall, 4-0 in conference play. Solon will drop to 1-6, 0-4 in conference play. And then the Brunswick Blue Devils, they were taking on the Euclid Panthers. And this was a no-brainer, guys. This was 2 teams trying to battle it out to get their first win. But in the end, Brunswick were able to get their first win of the year, so congratulations to them. Brunswick quarterback Ethan Roxanders was 5 of 11 for 84 yards and a touchdown. He also had 20 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Hayden Swarm had 3 catches for 56 yards. Wide receiver Cooper Neal had 2 catches for 28 yards. Euclid quarterback Robert King III was 16 of 32 for 144 yards. He also had an interception, but he had 8 carries for 40 yards. Running back Marquise Hall had 11 carries for 65 yards. He also had 4 catches for 37 yards. Wide receiver Jamal Jefferson Jr. had 6 catches for 74 yards. But in the end, Brunswick was able to get their first win of the year. So congratulations to them as they move to 1-6, 1-3 in conference play. Euclid drops to 1-6 on the year, 0-4 in conference play. And then the first of our 2 feature games, we'll start off with the feature game I covered this week. The Medina Bees, they were taking on the Strongsville Mustangs, and as I always said, a game was played in this one, folks. Quarterback Danny Stoddard was 17 of 24 for 349 yards and 5 touchdowns. He also had 5 carries for 52 yards and a touchdown, 6 touchdowns total in this game. Quarterback Harsh Partel for the Mustangs, he was 13 of 30 for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also stumbled with an interception. Wide receiver Austin Knowles had 8 catches for 164 yards and 3 touchdowns. And with that, Austin Knowles has become the all-time receiving leader in Medina Beast history, passing Brennan Tramp for the all-time receiving touchdowns. So congratulations to Austin Knowles on that record. Wide receiver Dylan Whitehill had 3 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Nathan Angus had 3 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. For the Mustangs, Alex Espay had 4 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown. But in the end, Medina was able to win this game 56-21. Medina would go to 5-2 overall, 3-1 in conference play. Strongsville drops to 3-4, 2-2 in the conference play. And then last but not least, the Shaker Heights Red Raiders, they were taking on the Menor Cardinals. And then Menor's quarterback Scotty Fox, who was the Greater Cleveland Conference Player of the Week, he was 14-21 for 250 yards and 6 touchdowns total. That is unbelievable. Wide receiver Evan Calderon had 3 catches for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Justin Hodge had 2 catches for 37 yards and a touchdown. Shaker Heights quarterback Abdullah Ahmad was 14-29 for 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Trey McNutt III had 4 catches for 44 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Cameron Jackson had 4 catches for 77 yards and touchdowns. And the star running back Cornell Beard, who continues to put up numbers for the Red Raiders, had 27 carries for 142 yards and touchdowns. But in the end, Menor was able to hand the Red Raiders first loss of the year. Menor would go to 4-3 overall, 3-1 in conference play. Shaker Heights drops to 6-1, 3-1 in conference play. The Cardinals will go on to win 44-29. And before we start the Week 8 conference schedule, let's hand it over to Professor Hype himself to talk about the Shaker Heights and Menor game. Sean, take it away.
Well, thank you, Noah, and you did a great job recapping the game. And if you want to see my recap, go ahead and visit us at sportsontap.podcast.com. I was able to get some of the video that I saw out there, and a couple things struck me about this game was, one, the fight that Shaker Heights put up. They were never out of this game, and I know the score is 44-29, but this game was close right up to the end, and Shaker Heights had every opportunity to win this game. A couple things didn't go their way, a couple bad penalties, late in the game hurt them. But really what I saw out of Menor was of just a fantastic performance by Scotty Fox. He was able to find, number one, his offensive line blocked so well for him. I don't think he was sacked once. I don't think he was under pressure more than 1 or 2 times. He had all day to find his receivers. He was checking off receivers. Secondly, I got to say this, the quarterback for Shaker Heights, Abdullah Ahmad, threw one of the best late first half passes I've ever seen to Cameron Jackson. Jackson caught it, and I actually put it up in my article that I wrote for the website. But it was such a great pass and catch by those two that I really wish that we could upload that to like Fox 8, because it was such a great call. But again, I mean, look, that was the first time that I'd ever been. I think it was the first time that Sports on Tap had ever covered a Menor football game. And you could really feel the electricity. I mean, there was a lot of buzz for this game going into it. But again, Menor does what Menor does, and they played very well, and they found ways to win. Big shout out to Justin Hodge and Evan Calderwood, who had fantastic games. Unfortunately, and I wanted to give a big shout out to Evan Calderwood. Every time he scored a big touchdown, I was trying to get my video to work, and I missed him. And he had 1 for 40 and then 1 for 56 at the end of the game that were 2 great throws that he caught over the middle and just went, and I missed it. And I apologize, because they were great. They were great plays. But yeah, I mean, it was an awesome game. It was actually the first game where there wasn't that I've covered this year that wasn't a running clock in the second half. So that was impressive, that I was actually paying attention mostly to the game. But yeah, big shout out. And again, Shaker Heights played very, very well. And, as we talked about last week, they're going to have, they have the opportunities here to kind of build their resume for the playoffs. And it starts next week, and we'll kick over to see, if you want to break down what Week 8 looks like in the Greater Cleveland Conference.
All right. Well, thank you, Sean, as always. And it was great to have 2 Greater Cleveland Conference in Week 7. As we get into Week 8 of the GCC schedule, Brunswick will be taking on Menor. Medina will be taking on Cleveland Heights. Euclid will be taking on Solon. And Strongsville will be taking on Shaker Heights. And that is the Week 7 recap and Week 8 7 in the GCC.
I just got to say something real quick.
Yes, sir.
I feel bad. I'll come out and say I'll feel bad for the Euclid Panthers this year. They're going through a coaching change. This game that they played was originally scheduled at Euclid, had to be switched to Brunswick because there's some idiots that are causing problems over there. I feel really bad for these Euclid Panthers. They're just trying to play some football and have a successful season, and powers outside of what they could do are having a full effect on that. So I just like to throw that out there that it's a shame, and I feel bad for the Euclid Panthers.
Absolutely.
It's never a good situation when a game has to be moved, and they were going through the various options of whether to move it to Saturday, play it without any fans, or straight up cancel it. At least you got a good game with a good turnout, at least from the Brunswick side, and the game was able to be played, and that's really that's the best outcome that could happen here. But I agree with you, Josh, and it's well said there. Great work on the Greater Cleveland Conference, guys. Without getting too much into it, because I know we're going to be a little bit short on time here. Medina and Cleveland Heights are squaring off in Cleveland Heights. That game is right now is shaping up to be the de facto championship game for the Greater Cleveland Conference, as Menor has defeated Medina and Cleveland Heights has defeated Menor. So these two teams are the teams that haven't played yet. And with all due respect to the rest of the teams on Cleveland Heights' schedule, Euclid, and obviously a tough Shaker Heights team, as we have seen, they played Menor very tough. There's going to be a lot of computer points on the board here and inside positioning for the Greater Cleveland Conference Championship. So Noah and Sean for this week helping out with the Greater Cleveland Conference. Great work as always. All right, let's shift over to the Great Lakes Conference. And we'll go through the Week 7 schedule score here. Buckeye took on Lakewood. A game was played. And Lakewood, actually, they did score on their first drive. They hit a 53-yard touchdown pass from Avery Holt to Jalen Chappell. That was about it for the Rangers. Buckeye responded with the next 52 unanswered points. 4 rushing touchdowns by Gage Nagy, 1 each from Casey Murray, Troy McCann, and Ryan Wilhelm, followed by a 35-yard field goal by Brandon Bonnet. Buckeye rushed for 420 yards to Lakewood's 74. For Buckeye, Casey Murray, he threw 4 passes, completed all of them for 118 yards. Gage Nagy, 6 carries, 70 yards, 4 touchdowns. Troy McCann, 10 carries, 101 yards and a touch. Trey Weidenmeyer had 2 catches for 68 yards for Buckeye. For Lakewood, tough sledding for Avery Holt, but he completed 9 to 24 passes for 125 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed 10 times for 66 yards. Jalen Chappell had 2 catches for 72 yards for the Rangers. And former Player of the Week nominee Alex Simons had 4 catches for 37 yards. Buckeye 52, Lakewood 7. Buckeye remains undefeated at 7-0, 2-0 in conference play. Lakewood falls to 2-5, and they are 0-2 in conference play. Normandy took on Holy Name. Normandy is desperately going for their first win here. They took a 14-0 halftime lead behind touchdown runs by Jacob Havranek and Elijah Gray. Holy Name then tied it with 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. They took the lead 21-14 in the fourth. Normandy scored on a 32-yard touchdown pass with about a minute left to play in the game. They went for 2. Unfortunately, the Invaders did not get the 2-point conversion. And with that, Holy Name escapes with a 20-20 win over the Normandy Invaders. For the Namers, the Green Wave, it was Andrew Cole. He completed 4-11 passes for 132 yards and a touchdown. He did throw 2 interceptions, so Normandy's defense really came to play today in this game. He also ran 10 times for 93 yards and a touchdown. Xavier Rodriguez had 22 carries for 67 yards and a touch. And Colin Dockich caught 1 pass for 68 yards and a touchdown. So it was a very good effort by Normandy. Holy Name, again, gets their win. They improved to 2-5 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Normandy remains winless at 0-6 overall. 0-2 in conference play. Non-conference matchup, this was a great one. University School took on Valley Forge. Valley Forge put some numbers up. Danny Keywell completed 5 of 9 passing for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed 9 times for 13 yards and a touchdown. Nicholas Mankins, get him some chocolate milk. 21 rushes for 160 yards and a touchdown. Ben Farson, he could also get some chocolate milk. 12 carries, 91 yards and a touchdown. 3 catches for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was not enough. The balanced rushing attack by the Preppers, led by Jackson Bolin. And unfortunately for Valley Forge, University School escapes with a 39-36 victory. Valley Forge falls to 2-5. They remain 1-0 in conference play. University School improves to 4-3. Shifting over to the West Division, Bay Village took on Fairview. Bay Village, they trailed in this game. Fairview's Pat Canfield scored first on a 40-yard touchdown run, but Bay took over from there. They scored the next 34 points. Rocco Raditario rushed 21 times, 189 yards and 3 touchdowns. Billy Wilmich also had an interception for Bay. Sal Rizzo had an interception for Fairview. Add it all up, Bay gets a 34-7 victory over the Warriors. Bay improves to 6-1 overall, 2-0 in the conference. Fairview falls to 1-6. They were 0-2 in conference play. North Olmsted took on Elyria Catholic. North Olmsted came out swinging. They took a 19-0 lead in the first quarter. Colin Willard, finally healthy after a season-opening injury. He opened his scoring with a 69-yard touchdown reception from Mitchell Kirch. 18 seconds into the game, Kurtz got injured. So Tommy Horsfall had to step in. He promptly threw a 19-yard touchdown pass on Michael Passafiumi. Passafiumi then scored on a 5-yard touchdown run. But Larry Catholic wasn't done. Mason Halliburton returned a punt 65 yards for a touchdown. Sean O'Donnell connected on a 26-yard field goal. Hector Garcia recovered his own fumble in the end zone to cut the lead in 19-17. The Eagles defense holds on, though. North Olmsted gets their first win, 1-6 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Elyria Catholic falls to 2-5. They are 0-2 in conference play. Westlake took on Rocky River. Lots of stats happen here. Scoreboard is very, very busy. Where Rocky River almost doubles up Westlake 55-28. For Rocky River, Julian Patty, arguably the player of the year in the Great Lakes Conference. He's putting up numbers that can be good for any conference, quite honestly. 22 of 28 passing for 378 yards and 7 touchdowns. Wide receiver Ryan Ricchetti had 11 catches for 124 yards and a touchdown. Nick DeSalvo, one of the best overall players in the conference. 16 rushes, 138 yards and a touchdown. 5 catches, 88 yards, 3 touchdowns. Studs are Patty and DeSalvo, along with Ricchetti. Oregon Grieve, Rowan McDougall, and Cameron Bolkowski also caught touchdown passes for Rocky River. And Trent Delventhal had 3.5 sacks and 5 tackles for the Rocky River defense. Westlake quarterback Sam Brucieri completed 13 of 18 passes for 124 yards, 2 touchdowns on a pick. Michael Porcelli, 2 touchdowns off of 18 carries and 140 yards. Cooper Rommel had 6 catches for 70 yards and a touch. Chris Campbell caught a touchdown pass. Muhammad Mustafa and Campbell each had 2 sacks. Add all up, Rocky River moves to 6-1 overall, 2-0 in Great Lakes Conference West play. Westlake falls to 5-2. They are 1-1 in conference play. The player of the week is Bay running back Rocco Hereditario. The sophomore rushed 21 times for 189 yards and 3 touchdowns. Quite honestly, Julian Patty and Nick DeSalvo, they cannot get it every single week. So I apologize to the Rocky River faithful there. They have certainly earned it. I cannot do that to them, though. So Rocco Hereditario, what a great game in his own right. He earns the nod for the Ray Felton Great Lakes Conference Player of the Week. Let's shift over to the Week 8 schedule. And we have Buckeye is going to travel to Valley Forge. I am 100% confident a football game will be played in that game. Normandy will take on Lakewood. I'm looking forward to that game. I think that's going to be a great game. Holy Name is going to travel to Canfield, and Holy Name had their hands full with Normandy. Canfield is a very, very good team. So we'll see if Holy Name can step up against Canfield in their non-conference game. In the West Division, we have Bay Village taking on Westlake. So that looks like one of the best games of the week from a points perspective. Fairview travels to North Olmsted. Now these two teams haven't had the best of records, but they have both been very competitive. North Olmsted just got their first win. We'll see if they can make it 2 in a row against the Warriors. And then Rocky River travels to Elyria Catholic. Elyria Catholic gave North Olmsted a fight, but Elyria Catholic is also going through some issues just internally. They're on probation for the rest of the year. Coach Ferris said it. He's just going to do his best to, they have to look forward. It's not about looking back; it's about looking forward. And I have no doubt that Elyria Catholic can do that. But they're running into an absolute buzzsaw in Coach Wells, Julian Patty, Nick DeSalvo, and the rest of the Rocky River Pirates. That is all we have for the Great Lakes Conference. We will let's take a step back. Let's get a live read with our sponsors. And when we get back, we will be joined by Wadsworth running back Kyle Figuray to talk about their big win over Nordonia and see what else the Grizzlies have in store for the rest of the season. So stay tuned, listen to the words from our great sponsors, and we will see you on the other side of this.
Live on YouTube, and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
Have you compared insurance rates lately? Are you satisfied with your current insurance provider? If not, look no further than Ray Felton State Farm, a proud sponsor of Sports on Tap. For a free quote, call his office at 234-284-2996 or visit him online at rayfelton.com.
RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
For handmade quality leather products, check out Hand and Built Leather Goods. Check out their website, www.handbuiltleather.com. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind. Check them out on their website at www.gvartwork.com and use the code ONTAP10 to get 10% off your full order. GV Art and Design.
Welcome back to Sports on Tap. I'm Ed Dick, alongside Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Noah Jacobson, and Professor Hype Sean Duffy. You just heard from our wonderful
right.
sponsors. So make sure you check all of them out. Check out all the services and products that they offer. Wow, I don't think I've seen that before, but that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea there.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So moving forward, we're currently working with the interwebs to get Kyle Figuray on. Let's see if the audio works there.
What's up, guys?
There he is.
All right, sorry.
There he is.
We are joined by Wadsworth running back Kyle Figuray, a key figure.
He couldn't wait to do that.
Sorry, man.
He couldn't wait.
That's good.
You have to hear that like all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I very much apologize for
I do.
that. Very good. Kyle Figuray, a very key part of the Wadsworth Grizzlies, coming off a huge 55-14 victory over Nordonia. Kyle, thanks for taking the time to join us. What a great game. The last 2 weeks, really, we'll call it 3 weeks, really since you've entered the conference play, tough games, great opponents. You found a way to get through it. Let's talk specifically about last week's game. What was the mindset going into Nordonia, a very tough place to play to begin with, but also against an undefeated team?
Yeah, so we knew coming into the week that Nordonia was going to play us real tough. Knew they were 6-0. We knew we had to go up there. We had to be prepared. We all had to know our assignments. And we knew that we had to be pretty physical when it came to the game, and we knew whoever was going to be more physical was going to end up winning the game.
Yeah, Kyle, I was there, and you guys were definitely physical, and you set the tone early in that game, scoring the first 2 touchdowns of the game. So, I wonder how, for you, how you felt that set the tone for your team, because then you guys scored another touchdown. Will Stack came in, and you guys made it 21-0, and Nordonia was behind the 8 ball. So how did your guys' physical play to begin, you scoring 2 touchdowns, set the tone for your team for the rest of the game?
Yeah, so first off, our defense came out there. They did a great job. Started with 3 and out, gave us the ball right at the beginning of the first quarter. Obviously, we drove down the field. We ended up scoring. That gave us some momentum, gave our defense some cushion. They ended up getting Nordonia to stop again, and our offense went down the field. We ended up scoring again, making it 14-0. So we definitely had a lot of momentum, that started off in that game, and that definitely carried over through the rest of the first half and into the second half.
Kyle, thank you again for joining us tonight. I mean, you guys, we've been talking about Wadsworth all season and how tough you guys have been playing and how well you've been playing. I guess one of the things that I like to ask everybody that we have on here, especially in a skill position, what are some of the things that you started in the year, some of the goals or some of the things you wanted to work on coming into the year, and have you seen that progression week to week, or is it still something you're constantly like going into practice every day working on?
So some goals for us as a team was, of course, to win the Suburban League. That's always a goal for us. It's something that Coach Todd kind of sets as the standard for the team. And right now we're in a very good position to win the league. But of course, we got Stowe and North Royalton that we cannot look past at all. Both are very good teams. But then make a deep playoff run. Last year we only made the second round. Disappointed, ended up losing to Medina for the second time last year. So obviously a deep playoff run would be real nice for this team.
Kyle, thank you again for joining us on tonight's Go. When we talked back in August, when I met you in the scrimmage at Brunswick, I felt like your guys' offensive line has performed from a standpoint throughout the first 7 weeks without losing a guy like Aaron, and that just kind of talk about how big of an impact how your offensive line has been throughout the first 7 weeks.
Yeah, our offensive line has for sure been phenomenal, led by 2 3-year starters, John Byers and Evan Crowley. I could go on for days about how hard they work in the weight room, on the field, in school. They're great men on and off the field. So it's great to have those two, leading the front up there. But also we have, younger guys at both guards and right tackle. But those guys aren't no slouches either. They all, get after in the weight room again on the field. So you definitely have seen a lot of progression when it comes to our offensive line.
Yeah, Kyle, I had a chance to, Josh did a great job with the highlight video from this last week's game. And, I mean, you had, some really great runs. And obviously you gave credit to your offensive line because the holes were there for you. You run extremely hard and physical when you run the football. Is there any guys or running backs that you look up to or you try to say, I want my game to kind of be like him?
Yeah, so growing up, I was always taught to run hard, run low. Not much of a juker. Sometimes I wish I was, but it's funny. So me and my dad were just watching Larry Zonka. He's from I think Stowe or somewhere from around here.
Yeah.
I would always
Nice.
used to watch him, and I love the way he runs, and I try to kind of be like him.
I'm not going to lie to you. That's shocking. That was a shocking answer.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
think you were going to go there, Kyle. So
Larry
props to,
Zonka from
props to you and your dad.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a hell of a reference there. It's we're talking with Wadsworth running back Kyle Figuray. There's a long, more recent lineage of tremendous Wadsworth running backs. Jack Snowball, Drew Jones, the list goes on. Talk about I imagine that as you're growing up, you're watching some of those guys play, and you're like, man, that would be fantastic to kind of follow in their footsteps. When you were a youth, how much did watching those games and watching those players, maybe help you out as far as where you are now?
Yeah, so youth football in middle school. I always went to the Friday night games. You always want to be like those guys under the lights. So I'm very happy that I've made it this far, and I get to be one of the players that get to play under the lights. Growing up, knowing about Jack Snowball, Drew Jones, they've obviously set the standard very high at the running back position in Wadsworth, and so I've just been trying to continue that tradition.
Sorry, go ahead,
Go
Josh.
ahead. No, you're probably going to ask a smarter question than me, so go right ahead.
I don't know about that. Well, I know one of your questions is coming up. I'm not taking that from you at all. You mentioned that you have some younger guys that have stepped in, and it's no secret that some of your sophomores have really stepped up and have really filled in key spots. Talk about some of those sophomores and what they've been able to do, stepping up on the varsity level and helping you guys maintain what you guys been able to work through.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with Gavin Madigan, probably maybe the most athletic kid in the sophomore class. He might go down as one of the greats that ever come through Wadsworth. The sky's the limit for him. Play safety for us mainly right now. We'll come back to running back with me. He's a great runner. He's another downhill runner. He can juke, though, unlike me. So he's great. We got Jacob Ernest at middle linebacker. He's done a phenomenal job this year. Coming into this year, we didn't know who that other linebacker was going to be with Parker Ross there coming back. And he's definitely stepped up and filled the shoes of Maverick Blackburn and Ian Kaufman from before. So he's done a great job. He's going to play a big role in our defense for the rest of the year and continuing into the playoffs. And then at left guard, Gabe Ludke, he's done a phenomenal job also. Evan Crowley and John Byers have kind of, taught him the ropes of this offense. So, when they end up leaving, he can kind of, lead the charge, him and Eli Kaufman.
Yeah,
Well,
how'd you guys feel about that? Sorry, Noah. How'd you guys feel about that, Gavin, with the first interception for you guys, according to Coach Todd? That's my first question. Second question is, Myles Garrett was at the game. I don't know if you guys knew that. How does it feel playing in front of a guy like that too in the third quarter?
Yeah. So the first question to Gavin, having that pick six, I was actually watching you guys a little earlier, and I had no clue that was our defense's first pick of the year. So, I'm glad we finally got one, week 7. About time. But Myles Garrett, I didn't really think I knew that he was going to be, or he was there. One time I did look over at Nordonia's, sideline and fans, and I saw a big man that kind of looked like him, but I wasn't too sure. But then, after the game, once I got on my phone, I saw he ended up being there.
Well, Kyle, it feels like your guys' last 3 games. I mean, you guys play Stowe, you guys play Fort Hill, a team from Maryland, and then you guys end the season with North Royalton. But just kind of talk about how those last 3 games are going to prepare you guys as you get ready for the playoffs coming up.
Yeah, so each week we're gonna have to continue to take steps on getting better. Last week was a great win against Nordonia. Obviously, we did not play perfect, so we need to continue getting on better. Getting better. Penalties have also been an issue for us. I think coaches is kind of starting to crack down on that. We're starting to realize that it's coming back to bite us, and we realize how big those penalties can be. But Stowe's, they have great players. Definitely cannot look past them at all. Fort Hill, back-to-back state champs, 1A over there. Can't look past them either. They're going to be a great team, and we're going out there to Maryland. And then end of the season with North Royalton. You're also a great team. They beat us the last 2 years, so we're looking forward to a win this year for sure.
Are you guys excited for that Maryland trip? Because I'm sure some of the road trips and the road games are fun, obviously around the area. But this is, you're traveling a little bit with some of your friends and some guys you've known for a long time. Do you think that helps? Obviously it helps create memories and stuff like that. But are you excited for that long trip, or are you like, yeah, man, I kind of wish we stayed around here and we're a little bit closer?
Yeah. So we knew. We had a 2-year contract with Fitch. That ran out after last year, so we knew we were going to have to end up finding a new team. So we weren't totally sure if we were staying in Ohio or not. Last year there was some buzz about maybe playing a team from Michigan or Pennsylvania, or, ended up being a team from Maryland. And when we all find out for sure that we were heading out to Maryland, we're all pretty pumped. So we are definitely looking forward to that.
Very cool.
Talking with Wadsworth running back Kyle Figuray. Kyle, you're very, very successful on the baseball field as well. As we talk about with other multi-sport athletes, if I'm not mistaken, you're a pitcher. Am I right on that? Okay. So when it comes to a sport, state championship game, are you ready? Would you rather run in the game-winning touchdown or either throw a shutout or just get the best out for the state championship in baseball?
Everyone always asks me these tough questions about both sports that I love so much. But if I had to choose one, I'd probably be in the state championship for football. I just feel like the culture that our football program, Coach Todd, has built is phenomenal. I think the atmosphere at a state championship game for football would be incredible.
It's hard to argue that. I think you continue on the long line of people who have chosen football, albeit by a very slim margin over a potential other sport. Kyle, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us. Good luck this week against Stowe. Have safe travels out to your team in Maryland, and wrapping up the rest of the season in North Royalton. So we look forward to talking maybe with you, Coach Todd, or some of the other players near the end of the season. So best of luck to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. You guys have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
That is Wadsworth running back Kyle Figuray. Just a tremendous season. One of the best running backs coming into this season, and he has certainly proven that out behind a very good offensive line. Great quarterback play from Will Stack as well to take the pressure off. And obviously a very accomplished athlete on the baseball diamond as well. All right, let's shift over to let's do the Greater Cleveland. Let's do the Player of the Week contest real quick. Let's get that out of the way. I think all the votes are in. Josh, do you want to take it from here?
Stand by. Let me get that up a little bit. Computer's having a little technical difficulties, but while we're waiting for that to come
tabulating.
up.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen right now just so people
While
can see it.
we're waiting for that to come up, I think we need to address something that we just saw. Did anyone catch the mullet on that kid? That was
another great hair.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
He's got some lettuce hanging on the neck. That's just an early 90s. I mean, I don't want to bring it up because I don't know if it maybe is a sore spot with his mom.
Do you know what's interesting is I could picture Sean with this as an aviator, offensive lineman.
No, you see, listen. When it comes to this, this only grows out. It doesn't grow down. It grows out. So it's not really like I'm jealous of those that can grow the long.
It's impressive.
Like the curly, like that's fantastic. And it's just, I love that it's coming back. He's got a little lettuce hanging out the back of the helmet. Like that's what you want.
If anything, we've had our guests this year have had great dues, great
Just
heads
great
of hair.
hair.
So
Just great hair. Yeah.
all right, so back to the poll.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Here we go.
As we're looking at, once again, the nominees are Scotty Fox from Menor, Jacorian Caffey from Avon, Gabe Manziel from Copley, and Rocco Ereditari. I can't. This is my
Hereditario.
Hereditary. Thank you.
Nice.
That was a bad effort by me. I've said this name. I said it a couple of weeks ago.
You probably were saying it in your sleep last night.
Right. I'm trying to sound it out. So, Rocco, I apologize to you greatly. And also say congratulations, because with 47.1% of the votes,
wow,
you are the Ray Felton State Farm Player of the Week for Week 7. So we will be sending you a small little care package from Ray Felton State Farm, along with a few items from Sports on Tap and a Chick-fil-A gift card. So make sure you enjoy that. Thanks again to our title sponsor of our show, Ray Felton State Farm. You'll hear him before, during, and after the show. So if you have any insurance needs, please make sure you visit Ray Felton State Farm at rayfelton.com.
Very good.
Beautifully done.
I'm very pleased. Get a good result for the Great Lakes Conference.
There you go.
Dave voters there for getting that done. So again, congratulations to all the student athletes that are nominated for the Ray Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week competitions. All right, let's get to it. It's time for the Power 10, and we had a little bit of movement here as we had some teams play each other, and some results had changed a little bit here. So the bubble's going to pop up first. It is going to start from top to bottom, so 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then we will start with the actual 10. So without further ado, the bubble teams are as follows.
Bam.
We have Rocky River at 6-1, Aurora at 6-1, Shaker Heights, suffering their first loss of the season, is at 6-1, North Ridgeville at 5-2, and Olmsted Falls at 5-2. So those are your bubble teams. Really by the slimmest of margins. All these teams are very, very good. North Ridgeville at this point still gets the nod over Olmsted Falls due to a head-to-head victory there. Shaker Heights suffers their first loss against a very tough Menor team. Aurora and Rocky River have lost to two very good opponents, and they've relatively dominated so far in their play. But their beaten opponents haven't really done their part up to this point yet. So that's where we are there. But again, movement can happen at any point in time, depending on how your beaten opponents have done and some of the head-to-heads that are coming up. All right, starting with number 10, Medina comes back in at 5-2. Menor stays at 4-3. Menor, with the head-to-head victory over Medina, is going to remain ahead of them. I believe they are still ahead of them in Division I, Region 1, according to Joe Idle. Nordonia slips to 6-1 with getting essentially blown out by a very good Wadsworth team. Avon Lake up to 6-1. They are number 7. Buckeye is at 7-0. Highlands at 6-1. Hudson's at 5-2. They do remain over Highland for the purposes of the head-to-head victory at this point. Cleveland Heights drops to number 3, and that's really because Wadsworth took out both Hudson and Nordonia in back-to-back weeks on the road, and they have 3 full points more than Cleveland Heights does in Division I, Region 1. And, of course, until anyone beats them, Avon is number 1. So that's what we have here for the Power 10. A little bit of movement here. Wadsworth, again, making 2 huge jumps with 2 big victories on the road against Hudson and Nordonia, and that's really the reason why they have jumped up as high as they have.
I got no quarrels about that one. In fact,
I got no qualms about it.
I mean, I think you did a great job. I think you did a great job this week, Ed. And one thing I'm looking forward to is that Hudson-Nordonia matchup is big because, potentially, you have Hudson-Nordonia and you have Cleveland Heights-Medina. So if Medina happens to beat Cleveland Heights and Hudson happens to beat Nordonia, you could have a change there. I think we all assume that Wadsworth and Avon are going to go ahead and win this week. So those two might stay the same, but there's potentially some movement. And then if, Cleveland Heights happens to win, could they possibly jump Wadsworth? Who knows? So there's some definitely intrigue. But as far as your rankings this week, I'm cool with it. I like it.
Spot on.
I think.
For me, I'm asking the question, Ed. For me, has Buckeye reached their ceiling at this point? I mean, I'm not trying to disparage an undefeated team, but just given who they've beaten and how those are, my point is Buckeye is essentially set up to run the table in the GLC, but is given the weight ahead of them. How realistically higher can Buckeye go at this point if they continue to be undefeated?
That's a great question, Sean. And because from the GLC side, they're not going to get much for the rest of the year. They're playing a 2-5 Valley Forge team and a winless Normandy team. So level 1 points and level 2 points are going to be very minimal. Well, level 2 points, so they'll make out on that because Valley Forge is a D2 and Normandy's a D1. But beyond that, they're not going to get much. Gilmore Academy could potentially be the last. That'll be the last big game that they could get. And Gilmore's very good. They're a 5-2 team. Their losses are University School in Villa Angela, St. Joe's. They have games against Brush and Lutheran East, so they'll probably win those games. So Gilmore represents their last opportunity to really get gainful points. But to your point, Sean, I don't see a much of a path for them getting really higher than where they are, unless something really weird happens with some of these other teams. So there is to a certain extent, there is a cap as to where they are. It's through no fault of them. They have beaten everybody on their schedule. But they need teams like Westlake needs to get more wins. Cloverleaf and Amherst need to get more wins. Those are their non-conference winners. North Olmsted winning last week certainly helped them out. But wins have been hard to come by for some of these teams. And Buckeye, they probably won't top out too much higher on where they are. I am interested. Josh, you brought up a good point as far as Cleveland Heights and Wadsworth right now. Is Wadsworth, conference-wise, don't have a whole lot of points left available to them, but they do have a very tough team in Maryland that they have to go play. So that win, if they get that one, that could obviously keep them where they're at. But Cleveland Heights has a lot ahead of them with Medina and Shaker Heights. Both teams have 11 wins between them. And that'll also put them in the driver's seat for the Greater Cleveland Conference if they win those games. So we'll just have to see how that shakes out. Cleveland Heights or Shaker Heights still has Medina on their schedule after they play Stronsville. So I think Shaker Heights could probably get Stronsville, or that'll be a very good game. And then I want to see what they can do against against Medina and Cleveland Heights. Shaker Heights has beaten opponents, haven't done too much for them, which is why they've kind of slipped as far as they have. And I'm recognizing what Rocky River and Aurora have done to teams because they have done some damage, no doubt. So,
well, my only thing with Buckeye is we were talking. I mean, you have Hudson who plays Nordonia, and if they lose, that's a 3-loss team.
Yep.
I can't imagine them being ahead of an undefeated team, regardless of opponents. And then Highland, depending on how they do against Aurora, that's the matchup we're all looking at as like the end, kind of like the highlight of the end of the season here. If they by chance happen to lose to Aurora, they're a 2-loss team. So, that there's some play for Buckeye, I believe, to move up if they continue to take care of business. And like you said, Ed, sure. They're beating the teams they have to, and it just so happens the teams that they played this year have had down years, with the exception of, I would say, a Westlake and, like you said, Gilmore Academy, who's coming up. So there's still some chance of movement. Avon Lake, too. Avon Lake is going to be a big game, as always.
Absolutely. That's going to be a huge one for points at the end. They're 1-2 right now in Division II, Region 6. And that says a lot. I mean, Avon Lake's only lost right now, I believe it's Chardon, or they're number 3, sorry. Their loss is to Chardon, and Chardon is obviously no easy team to play, and they'd drive out to Chardon to play them. So same thing with Avon Lake, though. They need, if they get some help from Strongsville and Benedictine, that'll certainly boost their profile up. But they have games against Falls, Ridgeville, and Avon coming up. So they have a lot of points at their disposal to try to jump Avon. Avon right now, they are far and away the most points in their region, and it's not even close. Their victories over Glenville and Canton McKinley have certainly paid heavy dividends.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if any teams in the SWC can beat Avon, because Avon's offense, you stop the run and then Nolan Good's passing to all kinds of weapons all over the place. Their defense is kept the likes of Glenville, down. That was a low scoring game. Berea Mid Park can put up some points. Avon Lake did hold Berea Mid Park down defensively, but Avon shutting out Berea Mid Park. They're just such a complete team, and they're playing, Canton McKinley and some of these big schools. All of a sudden, they're really not afraid to go head to head. Last year they went with Medina. And they that one went down to a 2-point conversion. So they're starting to play some of the real big boys in the state of Ohio, and they're competing at a pretty high level. It's going to be fun and interesting to see what happens, the rest of the way out for them. But it's going to be tough to beat them. And then once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Teams are going to be really ready for the playoffs. That's for sure.
Rob, I want to echo what you're saying, because I think, Avon offensively is Avon. I think you really have to drill down on Avon's defensive performance over the 7 games they've played. They are controlling the game from the outset. I don't think they've really been threatened a lot, with the exception maybe that Glenville game. But you look at Avon's defensive output versus their offensive output, and they're literally they're so lopsided. It's eerily similar to how we viewed Highland in this position last year, where they were just historically good defensively, and their offense was just feeding off of that. Now, take nothing away from Nolan Good or Jacorian Caffrey; those are really good receivers. Those are really good players. They do good. They execute very, very well. I'm not taking anything away from that. But when you have a defense the way Avon has a defense, it makes that margin for error that much bigger for an Avon team. Knowing that you have that defense out there that can control the game, control the flow of the game, control the line of scrimmage, can really put you in a position to where if your offense is having an off night, because we've seen it constantly, and especially at this level. If your offense is having an off night and you can rely on a defense to really impose its will early in the outset, I mean, that's huge for a team, especially at this juncture of the season, because we talk about, Coach Elder said it, you want to be playing your best football coming into the end of the season. Right now, Avon is hitting on every single cylinder. Defense, offense, special teams. I'm pretty sure the cheerleaders are doing great over there. I mean, there's not they're playing almost mistake-free football from the casual observer. I know the coaches and everything like that are going to find things to work on, but a casual observer looks at these scores and it says, I mean, Avon is not only dominating on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball, and that's got to feel great if you're Coach Elder and his staff and the Avon faithful going into a game.
And when you talk about the playoffs too, I mean, Toledo Central Catholic, the defending Division II state champions, have dropped to Division III, so they are no longer in Division II Region 6. They stopped Avon in their tracks last year, 28-20, I believe, in the regional championship or the regional semifinals. So that's a team that Avon doesn't have to deal with anymore. Now you still have Hoban in Division II Region 5, and you have a very good Massillon team in Division II Region 7. And I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. There's obviously still some games to play, but I think that this Avon team has a chance to really follow in the footsteps of past Avon teams, being very special as far as winning the conference, winning the region, and seeing what they can do in the semifinals against whoever their future opponent may be. So great work there. Thanks for the analysis, as always. That is the Power 10. And we are just about to wrap up the show here. Where are we going to be at next week? This week, actually. Sorry, this Friday, week 8. Sports on Tap will be again. Follow us at SOT Podcast to get our latest to get the live highlights there. So where are we going to be at this week, boys?
Well, I'll start. Staying in my home conference, the Suburban League Natty. We're gonna stick. It's another big game. Nordonia and Hudson. We covered Nordonia last week. I want to see how they're gonna bounce back. They're going to be traveling to Hudson, and this is the type of game that these two teams are going to thrive for. Specifically, with the weather, what they're calling for, rainy. So that means less passing, more running, and nobody does it better than Ian Ludwig and Rocco DiLorenzo. So looking forward to this heavyweight matchup. Next.
All right, I will go next. I will be headed down the way here in Olmsted Falls to see the Avon Lake Shoremen as they venture into Olmsted Falls Bulldog country to take on the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs in an SWC matchup. I think that's going to be a great game. Both teams have been playing really well so far this season, and it's going to be a battle. I think this is going to be a tough game to see who, can they stop the Bulldogs' running game? I know Avon Lake has a running game, but they also can pass a little bit. But the Bulldogs' defense is pretty impressive. So let's see who's going to outlast one another in this one. It's going to be a great one. Avon Lake versus Olmsted Falls. I'll see you on Friday night.
And myself, I will be attending North Olmsted versus Fairview. I'm going to give the Great Lakes Conference a little bit of love. I'm going to go see the Fairview Warriors in their last year in the GLC before they take that big boot over to whatever conference they're in that we're not covering. But I also want to see North Olmsted. I'm interested to see about this Colin Willard back from injury. Maybe that's kind of the catalyst to see if North Olmsted could right the ship a little bit. And, they're obviously probably not going to be a legitimate playoff contender right now, neither one of these teams. But I think if you look at this game, there's a potential when teams like this get together. Now, we entered a certain month of the year. We are now officially in spooky season. Spooky season. And you know what that means.
You're going to be in costume? Is that what that means? When you go to the game, are you going to be in costume?
If I listen, I'm always in costume because I'm repping Sports on Tap.
That is pretty
wherever
scary.
I go. I'm wearing the hat. I'm wearing the shirt. I'm wearing whatever I can. I'm throwing out stickers. I'm throwing out cards. It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Ed does not look impressed.
Let me tell you something. Myles Garrett was so impressed with the coverage that Sports on Tap gave him that he showed up just to see Josh Jeffy. Now, had he driven out to where I was, had he gone out to Mentor, he'd have seen Professor Hype himself. But I don't think he was ready for that. You don't want me to do that the week before a big game against the Ravens. I get that, Miles. Call me. Let me know where you're going. We'll meet up. We'll have we'll do a workout. It'll be fine. But if you want to follow the best ever coverage of high school sports, you know where to go. YouTube.com, baby. Hit the like button. Smash the notifications bell. Subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your mom. Call your grandma. Say, hey, these guys are talking football every single week about the GLC, the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Southwestern Conference, the Suburban League. I got Josh covering the Natty, baby. No one does it better than us. And on Friday nights, you get not one, not two, not sometimes 3 or 4 games of spotlight games. You get highlight videos. Dr. Hoops is throwing highlight videos. Josh is throwing highlight videos. Rob's throwing highlight videos. I can't figure out how to do highlight videos, so I'm writing articles.
He's only been doing this 10 years.
I've been doing it 10 years. I still haven't figured it out. I don't do technical stuff. I am the talent. I don't do this. But you got to follow us on Twitter. You got to follow us on Facebook. You got to follow us on Instagram. Wherever the socials are, our AEVP of social media, Josh Jeffy's got you covered. But you need to be tuning in every week because Ed's going to start talking playoffs. And when Ed starts talking playoffs, guess what? You learn something. Every single time. You learn. He's done the math. He's in the lab.
For Sean Duffy, we want to thank everybody for watching.
I know I learned something. I need a raise.
Oh, man.
You need a raise?
Yeah. because I'm this executive vice president, but I haven't seen anything in terms of a paycheck.
I mean, I'm a
me
professor.
either.
I'm a 10-year professor of hype, homie, and I don't get anything.
You
You
just
talk
got
to the
tenure
boss,
this year.
Rick Ross.
I'm not sure where to go from here besides hear what Sean said. I would just heed Sean's advice. It makes everyone's lives a lot easier. With that, again, thank you everyone for watching our show. Make sure you stick around to hear another word from our sponsors: Ray Felton State Farm Insurance, ORT Productions, GV Art and Design, and hand-built leather-made goods. You're watching us again on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast, at Facebook at Sports on Tap, on Threads at SOT_podcast, and check out our website, sportsontappodcast.com. Send us stats, player information, anything you want us to talk about. Send us an email at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. For Rob Trotman, Josh Jeffy, Noah Jacobson, Professor Hype, Sean Duffy, my name is Ed Dick. This is the Sports on Tap High School Football Show presented by Ray Felton State Farm Insurance. We will see you on the other side.
Pinky's up.
Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
With the auto insurance market constantly changing, call a professional that will put your needs first. Ray Felton State Farm is a team of licensed professionals that will assess your risk, explain coverage in detail, and assure you understand what would happen if you ever found yourself in a claim situation. You can visit rayfelton.com or call their office at 234-284-2996 for a free quote on your home, auto, renters, and life insurance needs.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
Hand and built leather goods. Leather goods built for life. Made by hand in the USA, all goods are made with veg-tanned leather. Some of the best quality around and made by a U.S. veteran. Check out their website, www.handbuiltleather.com. GV Art and Design is a creative boutique specializing in original artwork, design, and apparel. With 4 locations in Lakewood, Avon, Willoughby, and Kent, you can visit their store and check out their collections including Cleveland sports teams, Ohio colleges, and much more. Use the code ONTAP10 for 10% off your order. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind.